Hey, what's up? Welcome to the live stream, and you're officially the first person to, I guess, ever be on one of these live streams. So it should be fun. All right. And the way I've got it set up is you won't be able to hear the Pro Tools audio, just because these songs are unreleased. But I figured there's still some cool learning experiences here. So right now I'm gonna print some masters for this song. I'm also just gonna make sure that just the whole song, the masters are all coming together well before that print. So that's what I'm doing right now. And since I mixed this song, um, there's only but so much I'm going to hear differently in the mastering process. So I'm really just concerned about getting it to a nice final level and, yeah, just making sure everything sounds the best it can. So I'm going to see what happens if I hit it a little bit harder with the limiter. And you can see this mix is already pretty hot, so there's no reason to make it any hotter. Sweet. Eight, 4. Do Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like the videos. Just trying to, put out the best stuff I can. And yeah, there shouldn't be any sound from Pro Tools. This is all stuff that's unreleased, so just kind of showing my day-to-day working here at the studio. Maybe in the future I'll add audio from Pro Tools, but after I print these masters, it'll be a lot of editing, where, again, it would be helpful to hear it, but there's still something to learn just by seeing the work being done and just kind of seeing how people feel about live streams and, yeah, what it looks like. Oh, the joys of bouncing files, huh? It's so exciting. I'm going to use an automation that I've been building with SoundFlow, I think, on this next file. it like works half the time. So I've kind of just been typing all in manually, like you just saw, but we'll see if we can get lucky this time. Okay, sick. Let me check something. Okay, sweet. So now let's try. Let's try using our automation now. Let's see if it works. Oh, shit. Let's go back. Just have to edit this macro. You can't see the SoundFlow page, but right now what I'm doing is I'm just editing this automation so it doesn't fail like it just did right there. Which is why I don't always use it. It's one of those things that like works and then all of a sudden like doesn't work. Boom. This should work now. All right. Let's pop back over to Pro Tools. Boom, that looks good. Let's try it. Yeah, there we go. Don't even have to touch the mouse. I used to have an automation that would do everything I'm doing right now while I didn't even have to be at the computer, but it's just kind of hard to keep up with. Sorry about that. I muted my mic while I was just chilling here. Man, I was talking to myself that whole time. Um, so I'm just working on some automations for when I'm mastering files, and in the past they've like kind of worked. Sometimes they fail. Like you might see it right here. But I thought it'd be fun to try them out on the stream and just see what happens. So let's see if this works. Let me just double check all my stuff. Boom. All right. If this all works, it should print this for me. It's 24-bit. Ah, cool. I messed up the file name, but I'll fix that after it prints. Ah, yep. Seems like we got an error code from SoundFlow. It's kind of bizarre. That's why I was trying to keep my mic muted so you don't have like an ASMR of me drinking water all afternoon. All right, file's just about done. Cool. Now let's fix this terrible glitch that just happened because of that. Boom. Let me hop into and oh, 24-bit. Okay, let's do. Just gonna switch back to doing it manually. 16-bit. Make sure that we. Okay, cool. And what I'm doing is, I'm printing all these different masters for an artist that I'm working with, and just want to make sure that they have, their masters in both CD quality and the highest quality that they can get for distribution. And I'm also including instrumental masters as well. Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the chat, or welcome to the stream. I'm still pretty new to this stream thing, so bear with me as I'm what you guys see is you see, Pro Tools and stuff, but on my screen I've got like the streaming thing overlaid, so I'm still getting used to like checking back on the chat and making sure all the windows are visible. So yeah, what we're doing right now is we're printing masters for a client that I'm working with, and I got everything's approved. We printed the masters. I'm going to give it to them in 44.1 16-bit and 24-bit. And the reason why I do that is because if they're distributing with like CD Baby, for example, CD Baby only accepts up to 16-bit files, where all other distributors will accept up to 24-bit files. So instead of like, going through an email chain of asking like, who are you going to go with? And like maybe they say one thing and they change their mind, just give them, both file formats, because why not? And right now you can see, if you look at these two VCAs, they're muted. So I'm printing, again, an instrumental master now in those same file formats, 16-bit, 24-bit, just why not? I'd rather them have it. Yeah. And then we'll go in, and in this specific example, what I do is I will print stems based on the VCAs of my mix. So then if for some reason we need to open up the mix like 10 years down the road and none of this software is applicable anymore, we'll still have something that we can open up. So it does take a little bit of time. The plan for the rest of the stream. So after I print these masters, I'm going to hop into editing an EP. And I think I've got like 3 more songs I need to edit, which is quite a bit of songs. And so what I'm doing for this stream, since these are like active client projects that I'm working on, I do have Pro Tools muted, which I know like isn't ideal, but I think it'll be nice to just kind of see like editing processes, and I can at least show you some tips to do it faster, and maybe give you a like an insight into like how much editing is done on a record. So I'll see how long I can do it for and how long I can stream at the same time. So I don't really have a plan for how long the stream will go, just kind of feeling it out, seeing if people like it, and yeah, working at the same time. All right, so we just finished that, so let's take off that naming convention. Boom. Undo that. And what we need to do, bit 24-bit, okay. And then let's see. So here's something I just recently built into my mix template. So we've got everything separated into sections. And what I do when I get towards the end of a project, let me save this as a separate version just in case. Boom. So then what I'm going to do, so I'm going to route all these to some auxes. So check this out. These are all going to go to the drum channel. Then, aren't using those, we don't need that. These are all going to go to the bass. Acoustic, we're going to route to the acoustic. All the electric, same deal. Don't want to mess up that bus, so let's do that. Electric. Well, let me actually go back. I might have messed up a bus along the way. Good thing I save as. Let me check this out. Yeah, sorry, let me pop back into the other session. We don't need to save that. Name something more humbling than making mistakes on a stream. It's so scary to like do this process, you know, that you usually do by yourself in front of, you know, however many people are on this stream. Mic audio is super quiet. Gain that thing up. Good thing the gain's right here. How about this? Now we're kind of like in the yellow. I also talk really quiet. My story on becoming a sound engineer. That's a good question. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I first was introduced to like the studio stuff like really early on in high school. I remember my friend had like a home studio basement type of situation. And sorry, it's going to take a lot of my brain to do both of these at the same time. And from there, I just knew it was something I really enjoyed. And then in high school, I had like an internship and a music production class. So like my main goal was just like, you know, be in the studio as much as I could. And so my junior and senior year of high school, between that internship and then the actual music production classes, I only went to school like every other day, which was cool. And then the rest of the time was spent being in a studio. And then after high school, I didn't go to college or anything. And I knew this was something I wanted to do. And I just didn't really know like when it would come up in my life. And I found a spot to rent, not this current spot, that was super cheap. It was in a warehouse and we built it out. And then I think like 2-3 years after that, I moved to this building and I've been here about 3 or 4 years now and just, yeah, doing the best I can every year. And this November, which, you know, is this month, is 7 years of business. So doing it like commercially for 7 years, but doing it whether for fun or anything else for maybe like 10 or 13 years, which sounds kind of crazy. Because I feel like the first recordings I did, I would have been like 13 or something like that. And I'm 26 now. So that's kind of the quick version of it. I was thinking about making a video this year for 7 years, just kind of like going through all my photos and stuff I've had over the years, because my first studio was just this very creative space. It's a very kind way to put it. Like, it was pretty crazy. And near the end of it, like, we had built like essentially like a deck like you would have to a house, and we hung it like overhead because we had these like 15-foot ceilings, but the entire room was about the size of this front half of the room. And this room goes back, I think this room's like 22 feet by 12 feet, something like that. But so it was quite a bit smaller. Okay, sweet. The mic is sounding better. Awesome. Yeah, I hear it. This mic's pretty sensitive, so if I knock it or if I breathe on it, it's probably going to just clip like crazy or something. But one sec, gotta see who's texting me. Boom. All right. Now that I have most of my full brain power again, let's go back to exporting these files. So this is something I made, I want to say like a year ago. And so what I'm going to do, just check myself first, make sure I don't goof this up again. I'm going to save the session again so I don't mess up any routing. Let's call it master print. And all right, so here's where I have to be careful. So I've got, excuse me, my mix, like, you know, separated. Here's all the drums. Whoa. Okay. Here's all the drums. Here's the bass, acoustic, electric. And I've got all of these sends over here. And I've set up this template so I can send all these groups to these individual channels. And then when I go to print in Pro Tools, I can at the same time print from every single channel and print stems all in one pass. So it's still something I'm working on. And you kind of have to be careful when you use it because you can mess up the routing of your mix, but let's try it again. So you'll notice on this mix, right, we've got all of our drums right here, but they're all being bussed to this drum bus. So I don't want to mess up that routing. So what I need to do is I need to take the drum bus and route it to the drums. And then make sure I got everything right. And this parallel is actually is outputting to that as well. Let's make sure we bring this drum verb. kind of do some crazy things on these drums in this mix. The routing's a little unconventional. Let's see. Make sure everything's working right. Cool. And let's route both of these to the bass channel. Route the acoustic to the acoustic channel. Same thing here. A lot of electric layers that were all being bussed, so we don't want to ruin that. We just want to output this bus to the electric channel. Then all of this stuff we want to send out, it's the vocal, to the vocal channel. And same thing here, all the harmonies are bussed here. There's a reverb. Let's send it out. Harmony channel. Sweet. And you'll notice there's like keys, strings, and samples. None of those are being used right now, just part of my template. So let's save what we have so far. And now when I play it, you guys won't hear it because the song's unreleased, but I'm also not hearing it right now, which is good. That means everything is routed correctly. All right. And now if I pull all of this up to 0, I should hear the mix as it was intended to be heard. And what I like about this setup so far is now I can print all of these stems at the same time, but none of the gain staging is messed up as I understand it, right? Because all of these VCAs are still controlling all the faders across here. So any automation is being preserved. It's really just about where all of it's being output. So all of these being at unity should recreate the mix entirely, and then it can all run through this same master chain as well. So pretty cool. Let me check out the chat real quick. Thank you. All right, so now here's the cool part. Again, still working on it, so bear with me as I route it all together. So now we've got the master, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in the highest quality. The quality I received the files is 4824. And then I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to go, boom, into stems, open. And now I'm going to add multiple mix sources. And I don't know who all's in the chat, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I'm doing this so we will have a, let me actually fix this. I'm doing this so I'll be able to recall the mix years down the road if need be. So let's see something here. Because I don't think that a lot of our sessions will open 10 years down the road. Okay, yeah, this should work. Boom. Because we're not using, got bass, acoustic, electric, vocal harmonies. Cool. So one flaw in the setup is you can't actually output from these sends if there's no audio on them. So like in this template, I have a percussion channel, but there's no percussion, right? So it kind of messes up the ordering, like the labeling. But otherwise, check this out. We'll be able to print all of these at the same time, stems for the entire project. And it's free. It's not like you have to have some like paid add-on, because there are a lot of paid add-ons these days to get this type of feature. So I'm going to double check myself. And look, I'll show you two. I guess you can't see it yet, but and we will print the stems. We should be good. Cool. Now we wait. Hey, welcome to the stream. Ooh, my mixing philosophy. That's a good question. I would say if I had like one piece of advice, it would be to like not try and make something that it isn't, you know? I think a lot of what we can do is fight the sound that's given to us when we first start mixing something. Like maybe, for example, like it's very, especially when you're first starting out, maybe it's very DIY sounding and you're like trying to strive for like this big, like perfect, like portfolio piece, like the best recorded thing in the world. Um, but if something just, you know, has a little bit of a lo-fi quality, just lean into it. I think that is more respectful of the mix and the project than trying to make something that it isn't. So that's kind of my philosophy. I think mixing should be making something more of itself. And a lot of what I record, you know, I record with that same philosophy. Like I just want it to sound the best it possibly can when I record it, because when I go to mix it, I'm just chipping away anything that isn't, you know, the essential part of what that instrument or that element of the mix is. So great question. Thanks for asking. Sweet. So now I'm going to do, you won't be able to see it on your screen, but I'm just listening through all of these stems real quick just to make sure I didn't mess anything up. And then I'm going to add them to a file. And in this specific song, it's an artist that I'm working with, and she also wants the files for referencing, just to kind of like help them record a little bit better too, just to see like how much the song changed once I mix prepped it, you know, like tuning it, snapping it, all that stuff. So I'll show you how you could do that as well in just a sec. Okay, so now all of those are labeled. Let me just boom. Check something real quick. Okay. Cool. In the chat, are you a producer and mix engineer as well, or a recording engineer? I would say I do a little bit of everything. Personally, I think I excel the most in recording. Like, I really love recording because I think you can get 99 is kind of a lot, 90% of the final sound in the recording, and then the mix prep that comes after that, right? So just like cutting out any silences, editing things to be on the grid if they're moving around, maybe adding, you know, some swing into the edit as well. So yeah, I think recording to me is the most important part. I think a lot of people who are new to mixing would be surprised at like how easy mixing can be. It can also be pretty difficult, right? Like I don't want to pretend like it's the easiest thing in the world, but once you record something really well, the mix becomes very, very easy. And the mix honestly becomes more of like, how little can I do to this to elevate it, because we don't want to change it too much. But I love mixing. I do a lot of mixing. You know, I mix every project I record. Yeah, and I also produce a lot of stuff as well. People come to me and they want my opinion on, you know, what the song should be. Sometimes I play on their songs as well. It's a little bit different for everybody. So just trying to meet artists wherever they're at in their journey and whatever they need from me. So great question. All right, so what we're going to do next is a little crazy. Let me, I'm actually going to save this as another session just in case, again, I goof anything up. let's see, we'll call it raw stem print. So like I was saying, the artist wants the raw stems without any processing, so they can hear, the difference between like before and after, and then what they provided me, the edits I did. Kind of just A/B to learn from it. But in the middle of this mix, you can see we've also done some edits, changed the song around a little bit. So I just need to consolidate all of these, and I'll show you how you can do that, if you're ever in this position as well. So all of this is just silence up here. So cool. Double check ourselves. All right. Don't need any of that. Yeah, don't need any of that. All this looks good. Let's, I'll leave the sample out because it's not too important. All of this looks good. There should be fades on this cut. All right. Check out all the automation on the main vocal. Pretty cool. All right. And again, a lot of edits done. Okay, cool. So you might ask yourself, right, the artist wants these files that are in the mix, but the unmixed version, and we've made some changes to them. So what's a really easy way that we can get these files to them? Let's see. So what we'll do, select our all group, and we can just see where the beginning and the end is. Boom. Right, and we know that all of our fades have been properly made, so we have nothing to worry about. And what we're just going to do, we're going to use Alt-Shift-3, and that's going to consolidate our clips and make every single clip the entire length of the session. That way, when they receive the files and they open it, everything is going to be lined up. Otherwise, you can see, like, if all of these files started at the beginning of the session, they wouldn't come in at the right time in the song. And then we'll go in and we'll batch rename everything to make it nice and clean for them. How can I be sure of the mix, translation-wise, and the creativity of the mix? I would say, sorry, one sec. Excuse me. I would say that over time you get used to it. It's still something I'm working on. I felt like it took me a really long time to get like properly loud mixes that weren't just me, smashing them for the sake of smashing them. For like a long time, for many, many years, I had pretty quiet mixes I was proud of, but I always struggled to get, that level that you see kind of, at the highest level of recording and mixing, because a lot of stuff these days is like super hot. Yeah, and so just kind of trial and error. You help an artist create something, what it sounds like in, your Pro Tools session, and then it gets released, and then you see like, okay, well, this is what it sounds like on a cell phone. This is what it sounds like in Spotify, and you kind of learn from there. And, you do so many mixes over the years, and you kind of learn what works and what doesn't. But one thing that I've learned, especially now that I'm feeling a lot more comfortable and confident at, how loud my mixes are and getting them to like a really competitive level, it seems like a lot of things smooth themselves over once you get a nice loud mix. And maybe there's something deeper to that too, right? Like to get something really loud, you've got to have a lot of control and a good edit and a great recording. So it may just be like a domino effect, But over time, you'll be confident of your mix, and especially if you're like working at home, right? And you're working on your own project. One thing I see a lot of people do is they'll mix their song, and, they have work, they have life, maybe kids and other responsibilities. And then they come back to that mix maybe a couple weeks or a couple months later. And, to quote Rick Rubin, you're going to be a different person in a couple weeks or a couple months with different tastes. And that time that you leave in between when you start the mix and you finish it, you can end up wanting to change it over and over again. Like, you don't want to leave too much time. You want to make decisions. You just want to, make them and execute them and kind of move on. And that way you can be happy with it. Because I'm sure any mix engineer would tell you, right? A mix that I did 6 months ago, I won't necessarily think is bad, right? But maybe there's just different tastes or different plugins that I'm into, or a different thing I experience creatively that would inspire a different type of mix. So yeah, especially when you're working at home, if you leave a long gap in between, when you start something and when you release it, you may end up working yourself in circles and kind of think like, oh, why do I always want to change it? Like it must not be done. But I think it has more to do with like us and the time that we're spending working on it. Hope that makes sense. Kind of a long answer. I'm going to mute this real quick. How many of your clients are your friends and or people you already knew personally? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. When you first start, well, no, that's not entirely true. Let me see. Let me think about this real quick. When I first started, which, it was 7 years ago, but 7 years really isn't that long ago. I just think we've had like a huge shift in the industry. And I think when I started, we were in the middle, kind of near the end of another big shift. I guess I'll just tell you my experience personally, and then maybe we can learn something from that. So when I first started the studio, I remember I was on like Google Maps, right? And I would get all of my clients from Google Maps, and I realized like, okay, if I just like max out my Google business profile, like I'll just get clients. And so I was like, okay, how do I get my first 130 square foot studio that was in a warehouse with like no heat and AC because I needed it to be soundproof, to like, how do I get that? How do I get people to see that? And so what I did is I got it on Google Maps, and then I'm trying to think of what you did back then to get people to view it. Oh, I tried getting as many reviews as I possibly could. And once you had enough 5-star reviews, you would get to the top of, the Google search results back then, because there wasn't AI and social media wasn't nearly as crazy as it is today. So when I first started, I would say most people that I worked with were people who I, wasn't already friends with, right? It was all like new clients. And of course there are friends mixed in there, but it was also just such a different time. And I think in 2025, I think a lot of the people who I see having the most success are the people who have friends who are like doing cool things, who have a cool sound that they can help out. And then, there's kind of that mutually beneficial relationship that starts. And the second part of your question, do you struggle with determining whether to charge or how much to charge in those instances? Yeah, it can definitely be tough because, we kind of feel like, oh, it's our friend, we want to give them a good rate. And then maybe we feel as if our friends are expecting a good rate or free work as well. But I would say, and I'm just going to think to make sure I say the right thing and give a good answer. I would say it's fine to give your friends a discount, but just let them know, if it's like, oh, it's $500 for a mix and you're going to do it for them at a discounted rate, just be like, yeah, it's usually $500, but I'll do it for you for this. And then, maybe the next time comes around and it's like, hey, I'm charging a bit more now, but here's kind of the friend rate. And it may get to a point, where you can charge full price with your friends. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And, your friends are going to respect that. And it can feel maybe different or weird to take a friendship to like a business level. But yeah, I would just say the more communication, the better, because the last thing you want is for something as silly and meaningless as like payment to ruin a good friendship, right? I would say friendship first. And if that means like, telling them, hey, I need to get paid full price, and your friend saying, all right, well, we can't do this together, well, then you still have your friend. And I think that's a lot more important. So just be there for your friends any way you can. And yeah, I think they'll understand. And there's a third part of your question as well. If you're playing in their band. Now that I feel like it's a very tricky circumstance that I think a lot of people are in. And I think the easiest way to say it is, I think if you are engineering for a band, right? And you're not in the band, I think you have a huge advantage being that outside source, because you're going to have fresh ears and people are going to look up to you because you're in that position where if you are part of the band, I think people can sometimes feel as if you were trying to take control of the band or change the sound when that isn't the case. And that can be a very difficult situation to be in, kind of transitioning from band member to producer, you know? And I had that experience happen to me personally where, just playing in a band, people kind of not understanding why I needed to be paid for my services when it was, a different Jacob that they were talking to, producer Jacob, recording Jacob, not guitar player Jacob. And I think if you're not in a band with the right people, you can really butt heads over something like that. So, great question. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. We got a bunch going on in the chat, so I'm gonna hang out in the chat for a little bit and let these files sit here. How do you handle a project process when you know it's been on your desk for too long? How do you handle that to still get to finish in a good way? So you're kind of saying like when a project is going longer than you're expecting. I would say that this definitely happens to me. I'm not perfect. I'm always in the vein of just like, trying to get it right. But something I have been wanting to implement that I haven't fully been able to implement is doing like, this is how much it is for a song. And like we have this amount of time to finish it, right? So then like if it goes over, you can just have that conversation of like, hey, we said we'd do the song in this week. And now like it's going past that. So now here's kind of how we need to readjust for that. Because especially if things take a really long time, kind of like what I was saying earlier, is you might like a decision you made in the moment, and like 3 months down the line, you've experienced different things. You're feeling different, life is different, and you may just have a different preference. And it doesn't mean either one is right or wrong. But especially when that involves a project, if you're just doing a flat rate, you can really begin working in circles. Just I would say having a clear definition of how long the project is going is a good way of doing that. I used to do it, and I still kind of do, depending on the artist I'm working with. I had like these like building blocks for my prices, right? Like this much to record, this much to mix, and we'll mix and masters all in one, right? So however long it took to record, we would just like, book that many days. Oh, we want to do more. Let's book more days. And then it would end up being mastered, or mixed and mastered. But you can get in these circumstances where maybe something comes up in their life and the song gets shelved for months, weeks, sometimes days. Sometimes it's really not that big. So I've been thinking like, doing flat rate, start date, end date, and then reassessing from there seems to be the best way to like get a song out, make sure everybody stays happy with it, and make sure the time, is being accounted for properly. Just make sure you don't rush through the project. I've heard a lot of artists say like that they've had experiences where they've been in a studio and they'll get like here's something I'll hear a lot. It'll be like, yeah, we did our last project for like $2,000 but like we only had 2 days to cut it and we cut it all live and like, yeah, it was affordable, but like we're not really happy with it. Just make sure you're not like forcing the artist to have like no time to complete something, because I think that's kind of unfair to them. I think give them something realistic, like, hey, we have a week and you can come in, or I guess you should probably say how many times they need to come in. Then if something comes up, you can be like, oh, hey, we need to have an extra day. Maybe things go really well and it only takes a day. You're making the same amount of money. Song's going to be wrapped up in a week. That's kind of how I'm solving for that problem. And maybe like hearing about that would help you as well. So great question. You think I should work in the K-pop industry? I'm sure that would be fun. Making pop music is something I enjoy. I don't necessarily write it. Usually I'll like help people bring that type of song to life. You can view it on my website. Actually, the top one in my portfolio is more of a pop song. A bunch of questions coming in. This is cool. Here, one sec. Let me what I need to do, let me export these files real quick just before I forget. This will take like 2 seconds, then I'll hop back into the questions. Okay, so check this out. So what we're doing is we're just getting these raw files to the client because they want to A/B what they gave me and what happened after the edit. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I don't give them anything that's too sloppy. Excuse me real quick. Let me see. All right. So I'm keeping the naming conventions that they gave me, but you'll notice Pro Tools adds these like -01s to the end. So what we can do is we can use Control-Shift-R. Yeah, Control-Shift-R to batch rename the clips. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to find -01 and remove it. So now that's removed. And then you just remove any dashes off of here as well. Boom. Actually, that's not what I want to do. Do that. That. Fix that. And some of these other conventions like ISO 200 they had in there, so I want to leave that so they know what they're referencing. And you'll notice all these files were numbered. There's a really quick way that you can like batch number the files, but since there's just 2 that are missing that because we added it in the mix, I'm just going to do it manually. So 023, and I do this so in Pro Tools, for example, the files will all import in the same order I have the mix in. Cool. So now what we can do, we don't even have to bypass our plugins, which is pretty cool. We can just Command-Shift-K, and then let's see, let's go to boom, and 73 BPM. Now the artist is going to have all of their raw stems from the mix, and everything's going to be aligned at the same time. And I'm going to pop in here and double check. I'm going to listen to them real quick. And again, since this stuff is unreleased, I don't have the sound being routed to the stream. Maybe in the future I'll maybe talk to the artists about it beforehand, see if they mind. I think that'd be really cool to also have the Pro Tools stream. But again, this is just the first stream I've ever done, so just want to see what it feels like, see if everybody likes it, that sort of thing. All right, everything's looking good. Cool. I think an important lesson here, if you just hopped on the stream, is, we're sending the artist a bunch of different files. And I think we should be sending our artists more than just, the mix and the master. I included, multiple file types, so 16-bit and a 24-bit version. 16-bit because CD Baby only accepts 16-bit, 24-bit for all other distributors, so they can go to whoever they'd like to go to. There's also instrumental masters as well. I personally was in a band at one point in time, and we got a sync licensing deal for an old song of ours where the studio had since closed, right? I wasn't even a part of a band at the time, but they wanted that song. And we weren't able to take that deal because we didn't have the instrumental master and we weren't able to contact that studio. So I don't want anybody to miss out on any money or opportunities they could make So no matter how big or small the artist, they get that instrumental file as well. And then in this case, they wanted the raw stems, and I'm going to give them the archive of the mix, which is just, I'll show you down here. I print stems based off of my VCAs. So like here's the VCAs of my template, and then here are some aux tracks. And what I'll have is I'll have a drum stem, percussion stem, if there's percussion, bass, acoustic, electric, vocal, harmonies, keys, and so on. So then, you know, if 10 years down the line we need to open something and software is not supported or whatever, it's kind of like if you were pulling up something on a, clipping a little bit, it's kind of as if you were pulling up something on like a tape machine. There's actually a video of Steve Albini talking about why tape archiving is like his most preferred way to do it. So I took a lot of inspiration from that, where like, even though he might not have every single individual file, you still have something. And so, you know, having 10 stems opposed to, you know, a mix that doesn't open or a mix you have to recreate is a lot better, in my opinion. So that's cool. We have all of those files, which is exciting. So let me just get these things uploaded. Listen to them one more time. And I'll be answering questions again in just a sec. I'm just double checking these files on my end, and then I'll upload them. I use Samply to deliver all the files, and then back to answering questions. So let's see. Boom. All right, so now what I'm going to do is add the tracks to Samply. And again, you can't see that screen just because I'm streaming from Pro Tools, but let me just get all these up. Boom. All right, so all that's uploading, so back to more questions. Let's see. Did you work alone or with others to develop your studio or business? Let me see if he's still in the chat. Oh, you're still hanging out. Perfect. Yeah, so I actually worked completely alone to start the studio. And I don't know if that is common or not. I just know that that's kind of my story. And I remember it was just something I always wanted to do. I was working a job as like a car radio repair guy in a warehouse. I saved up some money living with my parents. And then, you know, I started my first studio. The rent for the first space, which was, you know, the one that was in a warehouse and like no heat and AC, so it could be relatively soundproof, was $280, I believe, off the top of my head. It might have been like $320 after utilities or something like that. Something cheap. So I've always been a proponent of like start with the minimum viable product, right? Because I think some studios have like investors, or, I mean, I'll just be transparent. Where I'm from, there's definitely plenty of people with money, and I wouldn't consider myself one of those people, but I wouldn't consider myself, you know, that down bad or anything. But I've seen a lot of people start things with just like, boom, here's a bunch of money to go start that thing. And I think that can be discouraging to people who don't have that opportunity. So what I like to tell people is just that minimum viable product. You know, 7 years ago, I found a spot in a warehouse for pretty cheap. I had enough for one preamp, the same preamp we're using here for this stream. And I had I'm trying to remember my interface at the time. I think I had an 18i20. I got these Focal speakers from my work. And then I bought a TLM 103. And so for the longest time, it was like I was a one input studio. If I tracked drums, I would individually do the kick and the snare and the cymbals to make it all happen. Um, yeah, just start at the minimum viable product. So whether you have people, great. And if you don't have people, don't feel discouraged, because I think anybody can start any business as long as you are humble enough to start it within your means. I have some friends here in town in Virginia, and they have this coffee shop, and it's like the best in town. And they started by selling coffee like literally on the street, like in a cart, and now they have a proper spot. And I just have so much respect for anybody who humbles themselves to start at the minimum viable product, because I think a lot of people are afraid to start because they want it to start where they see the end goal. And like my end goal, I see myself, building a very big, very special studio that I think a lot of people will come to make records and have a very unique experience. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have started the warehouse. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't be where I'm at now. Things just take time to get there. So, great question. What strings do I use on the Epiphone? I'll show you what I've got on right now. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I guess I don't need the headphones on while I'm not listening to anything. So what I'm playing right now are these D'Addario nickel bronze 12 to 53s. Actually, here, let me check my screen. Oh, you can almost see them. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can see them from there. There was just a video on D'Addario's page where Julian Lage was talking about these strings, so I wanted to give them a try. There is kind of this like brittle thing that happens with the high strings. That, I mean, I don't dislike it enough to like change the strings, but it's not my favorite. I was playing their EJ19 bluegrass strings. Those are great. When they get worn in, they get just like so unbelievably warm. So but what I like about these is these, like, it almost makes the guitar feel like a piano. There's like these really beautiful overtones. So maybe if like I combined a set like half nickel bronze, half bluegrass strings, like bluegrass on the high E, B, and G, and then nickel bronze on the bottom, could be a very unique sound. So I think if I ever like, fall too far down the rabbit hole, I'd do something like that. But cool. Well, I'll wait to answer some more questions until people join. And if anyone joins in between now and then, I'll be right back. Let's see if I can put something on the screen that says like, be right back. Can you do a open project? Let's see. Sources, text. Okay. Image. That's pretty cool. Oh, would you look at that? Pretty cool. All right, well, I'll be right back. Surprise, he's back. Here, one sec, let me get situated. Back on. Thank you so much. Yeah, just trying to make the best content I can and, you know, educate people, have fun, and yeah, just preserve the studio. You know, I feel like a lot of us are recording at home nowadays, which is like totally fine. But I just love the studio and all things studio related. And I just want more people to know about it and to know like the processes that we use in the studio so then they're preserved for a long time to come. So thanks for passing by. Feel free to hang out as long as you want. Right now, I just finished exporting files for a client of mine, and they're uploading, and I'm about to hop into some drum editing. I will say I've got the session muted just because these are unreleased projects. I didn't really ask anybody before I started live streaming, so maybe in the future it'll be unmuted, but this is just kind of a first time trying out a live stream, and it's been a lot of fun. It's cool because like things like this, like exporting files and this like giant edit we're about to go into, would just be me by myself, which is fine. But you know, it's nice to hang out with people and you know answer some questions and connect with the community while working. So as you can see, there's no sun in here, so you know sometimes it can be kind of isolating. A full studio tour video, that'd be sick. My like my one thing is like I'm trying to figure out how I would go about it. I do have one from a couple months ago on my YouTube channel, and yeah, it was great. I think some things have changed since then. Let me look around. Yeah, some things have changed. Yeah, that would be sick. I'd love to do it. So if you have anything specific you want to know like about the studio, let me know and I can take notes about it and maybe talk more in depth in that type of video. All right, now I think it's about time we hop. Or I guess we're still uploading files. Yes, we'll just chill a bit before we hop into that edit. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a bit before these files are ready. Oh, interesting. It like glitched out. Uploading some stuff. Fix that. Do I ever record drums here? Good question. I don't do it in this specific room. This room is part of like a multi-studio building, which I realize I don't really talk about too much on this channel. But if you look at my most recent video, the new UAD plugin that came out, that studio is actually in the same building, which was a huge reason why I ended up moving to this studio. I used to commute an hour and a half just to come here, which is kind of crazy. But I just saw that studio, the one in that video, and I was like, man, I want to be a part of that. And it's cool that it's in the same building. So it's a separate business, you know, like a separate entity. Like I have to pay to use it, but it's just, gosh, it's so nice to have like a big, proper studio if you need to like work on a project that's kind of out of the scope of what this room can do, or if you know someone just wants something special. So in this room, I don't really record drums in here. I've got some old like Instagram videos where I did some drums for fun, but yeah, there's not enough isolation between the rooms. I've got a neighbor on this wall, then there's actually two other rooms just like this, so we just try and keep it quiet, and we've actually got a neighbor on that wall as well. But it's built for studio use, no doubt, but not for ripping stuff super loud like drums. I do have some cool drums though in the closet. I have like a 70s Acrolite, I think an 80s like 26-inch Slingerland kick, and then it's like mahogany drum kit that I use in like a giant, I think it's a 24-inch, which I know sounds crazy, or maybe it's 26, like mine old Jazz Ride, which is cool. But yeah, I'll definitely try and make some more videos in the big studio down the hall, like when it makes sense. So it's such a cool spot. You can look it up. It's called the Bakery Recording Studios. We're here in Virginia. It's a really cool spot. And you guys can't see this on your screen, but again, just waiting for these files to upload in Samply. So just kind of chilling for a bit until that all comes together. Sometimes Samply can glitch out, which would be a bit unfortunate. How acoustically isolated is everything? Yeah, I would say it's pretty good. Like we've got this door that like also locks outside of my door. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for hanging out. You know, otherwise I'd just be sitting here. What was I gonna say? So there's a door that like locks right outside of my door, and it like has this hinge on it that like makes sure the door closes, but it slams like so hard, so you can hear it like open and close, like someone just walked by, for example. But it's never been a problem in any of my acoustic videos. Kind of our rule here, loosely, is like it's just me and my neighbor in the hallway, which is super great. But we have this rule where like if we need to be loud, we'll just hit each other up and be like, hey, do you care if I'm loud on this day, or are you doing anything right now that, like, if I was super loud, would that impede you? Like something like drums or like a band practice would be like pretty loud. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable recording while that was happening. But like you could turn up your speakers like all the way and you wouldn't hear it, which is cool. I think a lot of the sound transfer actually comes from the floor. Like I'm pretty convinced if we had like a floating floor installed in here and we weren't on the same concrete slab, and like maybe our doors were a bit better, it would be like 100% soundproof. Like you can't even really hear rain or anything unless it's like a storm so bad you could die or something like that. But yeah, pretty isolated, which is cool. Gonna draft up an email real quick, I guess, too. Wish I could like try to find a way to keep the chat up while I do this. Maybe I could like make this half the screen. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Boom. Okay, cool. But I can't see the chat. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this will be, actually, I wonder what would happen if I did this. Nope. If I did that. Okay, yeah, never mind. We're just going to have a big blank part on the live stream while I write this email while I'm waiting for files to upload too and keeping the chat open. So, let's see. This live streaming thing is pretty new to me. And the chat window doesn't want to seem to stay open when I click away. It's kind of weird. All right. Let's just sorry, my computer's just giving me a hard time. Swap over here. Boom. And then, okay. Well, so close. Sorry, the streaming thing's new to me. It's a lot of windows to balance. Okay, we should be good. Let's go to our email and draft up an email while we're waiting on files to upload. Pop back in the chat. Yeah, so it is a one-room setup, which I think there's certain things that I wish there was that separate isolation, but again, since we have that larger studio down the hall, like if I'm doing any crazy loud electric guitars, I'm either like by myself or like, oh, hey Martin, what's up? Thank you. I'm either like by myself or maybe I can reamp it in some way. I do think I would like a separate room, but I also think that there's like this real like special thing that happens when you're in the same room. So I think if I had like everything, like if I could make a wish, it'd be to have a really big control room. So if I wanted them in the control room, I could, but also a really big tracking room to separate it. Because like drums, for example, if I was to do that, that would suck. It'd be like really hard to hear like what's coming out of the microphones. But yeah, it's all one room. The room's not like it's not like super clean right now because I'm just working, and the live stream was kind of a last minute thing. But maybe later on, I'll like clean up the rest of the room, and then I'll show you the rest. I'm still like this part of the room I feel pretty good about, like the design of it, especially for all the online stuff and like the workflow as well. But this side of the room's a little ugly. It's like a little bit more functional. So let me hop in this email real quick. How crazy would it be if I like live stream my email? that would be like dystopian, kind of crazy. Let's see. Got a text. Let's see what's going on. Cool. I have my phone like ring for basically like only people in the building and like my family. So whenever it buzzes and I'm at the studio, I'm at the studio a lot, I'm like, oh, it must be important. Let me draft up this email real quick. So if you're new to the stream, I just like printed a bunch of masters and like different alternate versions of a mix for clients. So I'm just sending it their way. We just actually read their last email as well. See if I can email and be on the chat at the same time. Okay, sweet. Let's see. Boom. Okay. Sorry that you guys can't see the screen just yet. This is me just writing client emails. Just kind of drafting up the email for their files. So the moment the files are done uploading, I can connect a link to it. Let me just. Alright, so we got the email drafted up. I just gotta add more files to the. Don't need this. I'm gonna hop back on the chat here in a sec. Samply's being super glitchy today. Might have to switch or something or look into something different. Alright, now I'm looking back at the stream. Let's see what's going on. Oh hey, what's up? Thanks for joining the chat. I'm kind of in like a transition in the live stream right now. I was exporting some masters this morning, doing a bunch of different like file formats, and now they're just uploading. Just kind of having some problems uploading the files, and it's like I'm trying to think, probably like 30 files or something like that, because there's we've got the masters and like 2 different quality files, instrumentals. I've got an archive, which is like stems of the entire project, and then they also wanted the tracks just for reference. So a bunch of different files, just having some problems uploading them. But after this, I'm gonna go in and do like some drum edits and stuff, which should be fun. The Pro Tools feed, if you choose to stick around, will be muted, since these are like active projects I'm working on, just out of respect for the client. But I still think there's something to learn, like seeing how edits are done and stuff like that. But also just hanging out, answering any questions people have. I don't know if you can see like the chat history. You can kind of see some that I've answered over the past couple hours. But yeah, thanks for joining. So. Well, maybe while those files are uploading, I'll just like hop into the next Pro Tools session and get to work, because it's kind of taking a while. Let me just set everything up. Got that all going. That's going. Boom. Let me just turn. Okay, and then we can't see the screen yet. Let's see why that is. Boom. All right. Seems like we're back. All right, so let's hop into these edits and let's kind of see where we were at. I've got a EP that I've got to mix prep by the end of the week. So maybe I'm a little crazy, but I'm going to try and do 3 songs today. Worst case, 2, which would still be a huge success, and then do the 3rd one tomorrow. So yeah, let's hop into this and kind of see where we left off at. Boom. Boom. Sweet. All right. Let's see what's going on. Let's see. I guess I'll just pop back and forth into the chat every once in a while. Put a little welcome screen on here. I wonder how I edit this. Oh, all right. Alright, well, let's hop into this edit. I wonder if there's a way I could, like, pull this view over. Oh, that's funny. That looks dumb. Fix that. Boom.
Purple stem, wild flowers grow over my fence and into yours. Let them die right on the vine. Satisfy we roll on by. Purple stem, wild flowers. Purple stem. If I can't let go of my hands, if I can't let go of my hands, if I can't, if I can't, if I can't let go of my hands, let go of my hands, how will I let go with my heart? And wildflowers grow.
So what I'm doing right now is I edit these drums, and so I take some like slip edits while we're tracking, and just making sure that all these fades are in the right place. And you can't hear the audio because this is the track I'm currently working on.
Wildflowers grow.
Learning opportunities in this song. Sweet. I'll do my best to check the chat too every once in a while. I can't actually see it on my screen right now, so I'm gonna be caught between locking in and then answering the chat. Check this real quick.
Wildflowers grow.
Okay, cool. So yo, this is basically the comp we had from the day that we tracked these drums. And so to edit them, what's gonna make this a whole lot easier is if I commit it. So what I'm gonna do, save it the way it is, save session as, and then we're gonna do edit start. Alright, so now the session as it was the day we recorded it, there's a version of that if we need to go back to it. Now, I just used Option Shift and down to send all that to a playlist. There's fades on all the edits, and we're gonna Option Shift 3 to commit everything. Bring this guy closer. So now the computer's committing everything. Boom. Alright, so now what we've got is we've got our entire performance. Let me just chop this up to make it a bit easier. So what I'm going to do is chop it into sections. This is something I like to do. It's probably not the most efficient thing, but helps my brain process everything a bit better. Opposed to like doing these long stretches of snaps. It's nice to break the song up and get rewarded for each section. Cool, so now I've got into 4 sections, and what I'm going to do, disable the group, and we're going to go in with, boom, we're going to go in with Command and 8 to open Beat Detective, and start placing our triggers. That's what I meant to do. Boom, and all right. And so we can adjust the sensitivity window slider to pick up all those hits. So what I'm going to do first is just make sure we're capturing all the hits. It looks like we are.
To the knees, burning up the
Missing one right there. So.
if I can't let go of my
And you can see why I made this slice when we hit the chorus. To me, this section where the beat is maintaining, like, or where the beat's being the same, is a lot easier to understand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to kind of follow and listen to it and make sure that we're not triggering off of any bleed. Like right now, I'm just hearing the kick in mic. And again, this won't be going to the stream because this is an unreleased song, but I can identify that these are all kick drum hits and not, the snare hits that goes to our
purple stem, wildflowers grow over my fence and into yours. Let them die right on the
right
vine.
here.
Satisfy your right on the vine. Satisfy roll on by. Yellow trees fall to the knees, burning up the western sky. Let them waste just as it please. Satisfy roll on by.
There's another one right there. It's very quiet.
Roll on by. If I can't let go of my hands, if I
Cool. So luckily it didn't trigger off of any bleed, which is nice. That's why I like using the kick in mic to place the triggers. And over on Instagram, there's confusion about a short that I made. We're not like sample replacing any of these drums. The way Beat Detective works is it's going to make slices on your performance based on where you placed triggers, right? So these purple lines are just where you're telling the computer, hey, these are drum hits, and we're going to add them all to our, I guess what would you call it, into our collection, and then we're going to slice based on that. Just happens to be called triggers when we also happen to trigger drums as well. It can be a bit confusing. All right. Let me check this down here.
if I can't let go.
So now here's the most important part. Beat Detective isn't always perfect at placing the triggers, so we need to go in and do this manually, which can take some time, but I've gotten used to it over the years, and I found this way to do it very quickly. So I'm using SoundFlow for one of the most simple automations ever. When I hit tab, it's going to press this scroll next button, opposed to like me having to do it manually. So what we can end up doing is now fixing all these triggers so they're dead on the moment that drum hits every single time. So check this out. So what I can do is now I'm already at the next hit. Next hit. That one's good. And it starts to really take no time at all. Control Z right there. To really give it your best and start doing really high quality work. So if your reasoning for doing this is that it's going to take too long, it doesn't have to. So look, this one is right in the middle of that kick drum hit. It would have made a slice right there. Now we corrected it. And I mean, we're zoomed in on like basically the sample level right now. So just doing very fine, detailed quality work makes me happy. And I think every artist is deserving of that. Kind of that highest quality we can give them. I think that's what being an audio engineer is about as well. And since we went ahead and we checked all of our triggers ahead of time, we know that this is always on a kick drum. Where if we hadn't had checked that, be a different story. And every once in a while, you'll catch a mistake where maybe you miss something because you'll see like the transient looks totally different. Boom. So if you ever see a YouTube tutorial where it doesn't talk about moving these triggers, I would be a little suspicious because, I don't know, man. I don't want anything, because if it was to create that slice right there, it's also going to create a crossfade right on the hit of the kick drum, which is definitely going to affect the sound of it. So, same thing like right there would have been right in the middle. Same thing right there. Yeah, so again, if anyone ever shows you Beat Detective as this like super fast way to just like highlight it all on snap drums, I would be hesitant. Maybe strive for something a bit higher quality. Alright, so now we've got all of the triggers placed on the kick drum. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to collection and we're going to hit add all. So now those triggers are, officially in our collection. I'm going to use semicolon, move down to the snare. Actually, see if I remember my shortcuts. Is it P moves it up? Yeah, P, Shift S to unsolo it, colon to move back down, Shift S to solo it. Now what I hear is the snare. We're going to analyze it as well. And I'm just going to look at everything first. And again, if you're new to the stream, I've got this muted since, this is an active project I'm working on, but otherwise. In this case, we've got a kick drum and a snare happening. You got to choose one or the other. You can't double trigger on top. Happening there, so let's change our, yep, there we go. We just need to go in and check all of our triggers to make sure that Beat Detective didn't mess any of them up. And he's playing with brushes here, so we are going to be a bit more lenient on these transients. Like this gets pretty confusing, so use your best judgment. Whenever that happens, where you saw where it glitched out, that just means it moved the trigger. Just hit Command C and then you'll fix it. Again, being a lot more lenient with these because there's not as defined of a transient. A lot of this is like noise that you're hearing, like maybe from the brushes moving around, not necessarily the hit. Little flam action happening right there. Same thing, getting a little weird with that transient. Alright, so now we know all those are perfect. We're going to go in, collection, this case, add unique. And now we can see we've got triggers every time a hit is happening. So we're going to come in, select it all, and we're going to go clip separation, separate, clip conform. And with this project, it's very, very natural. So I'm going to add quite a bit of swing, 7%, capture selection, conform. I'm going to take a listen to it. Again, it's not going to be in the stream because this is a unreleased song, but so you get the process. And since this song has a lot of swing, I'm going to listen to it next to the actual tracks. Because instead of it vibing with the grid, it also needs to vibe with everything around it. There's no point in adding swing if it doesn't actually benefit the song. And there's no point in snapping the heck out of it if it doesn't benefit the song either.
Purple stem, wildflowers grow over my fence and into yours. Let them die right on the vine.
Mistake right here. Not really sure.
Right on the vine. Right on the vine. Satisfied.
Actually need to make sure we got boom. Oh whoa. Okay. This same thing is gonna make that mistake again, so
Right on the vine. Satisfied we roll on by. Yellow trees fall to the knees, burning up the western sky. Let them waste just as it please. Satisfied we roll on by. If I
beautiful. All right. Now for now I'm just gonna leave all of these like that. and I'm gonna work through the rest of the song, and then at the end, I'll end up, what do we call that? Filling the gaps and then crossfading it. So, just joined. What's the purpose of this? Good question. Just kind of hanging out and seeing what it's like to, do a live stream. And if you're asking specifically the purpose of what I'm doing right now, I'm chopping up a drum performance to mix prep a project ahead of inevitably mixing it probably by the end of the year. So this is a session where we recorded everything, we got the comps. Now I'm in the process of prepping it to be mixed. So that's making sure all the performances are correct. If anybody's rushing or dragging, we're going to correct for that. I know some people can feel like that's taking the life out of the song, but in this song specifically, you may have seen it depending on when you join the stream. I'm actually adding that swing back into it and creating a consistent feel across the song. So, and there's no sound coming through the stream because this is unreleased, just to respect the artist. We're just hanging out, working in the studio and answering questions when people are on the stream. So if you have any, let me know, and happy to talk about them and happy to explain anything. I will be right back. He's back. Oh, that's funny. You guys can hear the song. That's funny. I'm still so new to this. What's it called? This streaming stuff. Well, let me see if I can fix this real quick. See what's going on. Let's see. I can find it. All right. Time for me to test if I can hear this.
On the van, satisfied we roll on by.
Oh, you know what? It probably is. Probably from the headphones. Let me see. All right. Time for me to test if I can hear this.
On the van,
Oh, that's funny. You can hear that clear as day. So what was happening is the way I've got my system set up, because this was the tracking session, it's actually from the headphone mix. I'm just like blasting y'all with the headphone mix. That's really funny. Sorry about that. Haha, there we go. We should be safe now. Let's double check ourselves. I've got my system set up, because this was the tracking session. It's actually from the headphone mix. I'm just like blasting y'all with the headphone mix. That's really funny. Sorry about that. Haha, there we go. We should be safe now. Let's double check ourselves. I've got my system set up, because this was the tracking session. It's actually from the headphone mix. I'm just like blasting y'all with the headphone mix. Okay, cool. I think we're safe now. Whoa, hit the mic. Thank you for letting me know. Trying to, it's so interesting to like run a studio and make content, because you have to like, be really visible. But at the same time, like the studio has like historically been this kind of secretive thing. So riding that fine line between like being visible and respecting the clients and, not showing their stuff off before it gets released, I like to just be mindful of. So also probably could have just asked them if I could have live streamed it and they wouldn't have cared, but just easier to mute stuff for now. So if there was some sort of reward I could give you on chat, I would. I wonder if I can. Let's see what happens if I press these buttons. Nope. There's nothing I can add to it. But thank you for letting me know. Okay. So if you're new to the stream, what I'm doing is I am editing these drums ahead of the mix. You can see there's quite a lot going on here. And so I'm going to separate the song into sections to make it a bit more manageable. And I'll try and do my best to check on the comments along the way. It's kind of on a different screen. So for a lot of this, I'm literally seeing just the Pro Tools screen. Okay, cool. All right. So let's work on this next section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap these drums, and I'm going to start by just selecting the kick in. It's going to give us the most isolated, capture of the kick. So when I'm placing these triggers, we're not going to trigger off of any bleed. And some people confuse triggers with like sample replacement. In this case, we're talking about these like little purple lines you can see right here. They're called triggers, and that's we're telling the computer like where a drum hit is. So then when we go to snap it, it's using that trigger point to then, assume that's a hit and then put it on the grid or around the grid, kind of depending on how we want to use Beat Detective. In today's video, or, in what I'm doing right now, it'll be kind of around the grid because I want it to have some feel. There's a lot of feel in the rest of the performance, and I just want to make that consistent. So, yeah, I'll show you. The first thing I do is I'm going to listen to it, hopefully just so I can hear it. Let me know if that's not the case. And, cool. I'm just going to add these triggers in and make sure. That is only happening on the kick. Sweet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure that these triggers are happening right when the kick starts, because the computer's going to make a slice right here, and you'll notice I'm sure that some of these are going to be off, and a lot of people won't go in. So look at that. Literally the third hit, and it would have made a slice in the middle of the kick drum, and then we would have put a crossfade in the middle of the kick. What I was going to say is a lot of people don't go in and check these triggers. Or at least in the videos I've seen on YouTube, they don't mention it to the audience that they're teaching how to snap drums, which I can understand because, you want to encourage someone to get in to doing these like fine detailed processes, and you don't want to maybe scare them away because it can take a really long time to, manually move all of these triggers if you're not used to it. And like right now, I'm actually using an automation with SoundFlow. I have it turned on so when I hit tab, it's pressing scroll next for me because there's not a shortcut for it in Pro Tools. And it makes this process a whole lot faster. Otherwise, I'd have to like manually scroll, which would take a long time. But yeah, look at how many times we would have put a cut in one of our kick drums and then cross-faded it, just like mangling the sound of the kick drum. So I'm always a little weary when people say that they don't do this, I'm definitely open to the fact that maybe I'm just doing it in a weird way. But from the people I learned from, this is the way to do it. And if it takes a while, but it yields a better result, I'm into it. Once I wrap this up, I'll check the chat and see if there's any questions. Boom. Easy peasy. Now those are all 100% sample accurate to the kick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to collection, hit add all. I'm going to hit shift S, and I'm going to use colon to move down, shift S again. Now I'm listening to the snare, and I'm going to capture that selection. I'm going to analyze it, and then we'll do the exact same thing. Sweet. Now let's go in and check all of our triggers. Let's see. And all right. Sweet. So now we're going to go in, add these all. Then we can come over here and separate these clips, conform them, 7% swing. Ah, sick. It moved it a bit too much. Delete that. It's causing it to mess up. Thanks so much. I just saw your chat. Yeah, there's I don't have any audio coming from Pro Tools, at least that I'm aware of. Let me know if it's sending any. Just trying to keep it, you know, under wraps because it's a project that I'm still working on. But I thought it'd be fun to hang out and just kind of show you what goes into prepping a record. Because this is just work I was gonna be doing today, anyways. You know, outside of making videos, and that'd be cool to hang out. All right. Sounded like there was a mistake up here. All right, so. Oh wow, it really shifted everything, huh? Yeah, let me just excuse me. Yeah, I gotta go in and fix this. All right, let's see what's going on. Just separate everything, delete that. I'm gonna have to snap this section by section. Ah. Pro Tools has a mind of its own today. So let's see. Yep, craziness. Man, it's pretty unbelievable. Boom. Maybe if I something got moved around. I gotta go way back. Oh no, that's just the way it is, huh? It's a good insight into just how much editing can be at times. And now it's really gonna give us a hard time. There we go. I have to go in manually for a bit. Now, this is not the most efficient way to be using Beat Detective, but because this performance swings so hard, it would just send it to the wrong location. So I just have to do it by hand, and then I will go back in and use Beat Detective to add the swing, because right now I'm really just throwing everything on the grid. Otherwise, it's going to jumble it all up. Okay, sweet. Well, I think we've been streaming for a bit. I'm going to keep on keeping on with this, but thanks to everyone who joined the first live stream. I'll catch you on the next one. Let's see.